Welcome to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Stuart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Stuart, how are you today?
Oh, I'm living the dream here, enjoying that summer's not here and having a good time.
Good, good. Well, it's so good to see you. I'm living the dream as well, being with you in the studio, and I'm so excited about today's show. Here's what we're going to talk about. Are you ready? Recession fears, inflation, and diversification. Stuart, can we get through all of these in 30 minutes, or should we have 3 hours?
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if we can get enough airtime to go for as long. That's why Randy always says to tell me to be quiet here in our ears pieces here. But no, it's a lot to cover, and I'd love to talk about them.
I would too. Well, obviously, everyone right now, Stuart, is so concerned about recession. It's what people are talking about in the grocery store, everywhere you go. Are you as worried right now?
Well, I think the one thing people have to realize is that recession is already here. It's been here, right? The fact that, this administration has just changed the definition of recession doesn't mean that we're not in one. So listen, are we going to go into a global recession? Yeah, we're already there. I mean, we've seen all the classical definitions of recession hit. We're there. I think the important thing to do is not be focused on that scary word, because just remember, the media oftentimes uses that as clickbait. It's a way to get you to respond to something because you're going to react out of fear and you're going to have a lot of concerns. Quite honestly, what I'd be concerned about is looking at, what can we learn from last year? And is that going to present the same kind of information we see moving forward? Are we going to be in the same environment moving forward? And people need to make sure they have a plan and plan accordingly.
Let's talk a little bit about why the markets were doing so well for so long. Is that going to happen again?
Well, I think that, we were in a neat environment. What I want to do is I want to pull up a slide that's the S&P 500 slide that'll show you that the stock market has done so well for so long. And as you saw, for 12, 14 years, it peaked. It just kept going up and up and up. It peaked at the end of 2021. And then obviously it's gone down here at the end. But the part of this I really want to show you is to be able to look at those two humps that we see on the left of the screen. Now, those two humps there, the first one is the dot-com crash. The second one is the 2008 crash, or the financial crisis crash. And if you look from 2000, the peak of 2000, it took until 2012 for the S&P 500 to get back to where it was. So basically, people refer to that as the lost decade. And the real question, Cynthia, is, are we in that same thing again?
Yeah.
What is going to stimulate the market to do well again, to be able to create this lift in the environment? Well, quite honestly, when we saw the market start to move up permanently in 2008-9, it was because, when President Obama stimulated the market with $800 billion of stimulus, it did that. Well, Donald Trump did that in March of 2020 with COVID. They spent $2 trillion with PPP program, et cetera. But remember, what also happened, it wasn't just stimulus dollars from the government. It's also the fact that we've been in this very low interest rate environment. So what I want to pull up now is the chart for the 10-year Treasury chart. And what you'll see is that the peak on the left is back in the 80s, early 80s, 1980, 81. And for 35 years, interest rates have fallen. So what that's done, it's been fertile ground for companies to be able to borrow money with very low interest rates. I mean, even look, these dot-com companies, these technical companies could borrow money. These growth companies didn't need to show a profit, but they could borrow money cheaply, right?
Wow.
Or if you're looking to refinance your house, people were able to redo their kitchens, redo their bathrooms, spend $100,000 on this amazing kitchen, and their payments would actually go down. How is that possible? Well, it's because they would refinance at a lower interest rate. So I think that time is over. I think the day of the refinance to fix your pool or to do your kitchen, I think those days are over. But remember, that stimulus, that borrowing of money out of your equity is what people used to stimulate the market, right? By fixing your kitchen, you're hiring general contractors, and it's just this complete, circle of life when it comes to the economy. And I just don't see that repeating itself right now, because we are not going to be in this low interest rate environment any longer. It's climbing. When you looked at that 10-year Treasury chart, I mean, interest rates are back where they were, back in the early 2000s. So interest rates are climbing. Money's not going to be cheap to borrow. I think that's going to put the pressure, like we've seen locally here in Phoenix, on houses, where housing prices essentially have crashed as well. They're stabilizing a little bit now. We're seeing less inventory out there. People are pulling back. They're realizing these investors don't want to sell because they don't want to be down as far as they could be if they sold now. But it's an environment that I don't see repeating itself, which means that a lot of these do-it-yourselfers are going to be in trouble.
Sure. Well, as the environment changes, what can the audience do to make sure that they're not risking everything, Stuart, as they go into retirement?
Yeah, I think the one thing they need to do is make sure that their plan can survive all of the different scenarios that are possible. And, I've said before, that blind chicken could have made money in the stock market for the last 14 years, and that's really brought in the individual investor to manage their own 401ks, their own IRAs, their own retirement. They're playing stockbroker with their portfolio, but anybody could have made money because, I clients all the time would say, hey, my money tripled over the last 12 years. Well, great, the market quadrupled. So you underperformed the market by 25%, right? I mean, it's not because you're brilliant, it's because everyone made money, right? Yeah. And when people can finally realize that, stockbrokers, advisors had a pretty easy time for 12 years. Now it's been rough. I tell you all the time, 2022 was probably my roughest year in this business. It was tough because the markets are crashing. I go from getting, 3 calls a day to getting 30 or 40 calls a day from clients, and they're watching the news or getting freaked out. And it's an issue. And I tell people all the time, all of my financial clients have my personal phone number, right? Every single one of them. And, they think it's interesting. Like when I give it to them, they're saying, wow, you're this guy on TV and you're giving me your number. Well, yeah, when your life savings are with our company, you need to be able to reach your advisor 7 days a week. It's your life savings, right?
That's true. That is true. Stuart, I want to ask you as well about, what about your risk tolerance? How important is it for someone to understand what that would be?
Yeah, I think a lot of people believed that their risk tolerance was something different than what they were in. Last year was one of those crazy years also where, people would say, hey, I'm a growth investor, or I'm a moderate or a balanced investor. And typically, depending on your risk levels, let's say that, people said, hey, I'm willing to take a 25% loss so long as I can see a 20% upside on average. Well, yeah, but those days are over. Are you still willing to see a 20 or 30% loss in the downside? And I think a lot of people just had no clue where their risk stood because they didn't care. For all these years, they did incredibly well. Everyone wants to be on the gas pedal when the market's going up, right? And just knowing when to pull out and move to safety is a completely different thing. And for those people that were in investments and they thought they were conservative, just remember it's a different situation because bonds offered as much downside as stocks did this year in some cases. And people need to get a true assessment of their risk.
Well, Stuart, I'm glad you brought that up because you have a very special offer to present to our viewers. Let's talk about what that is before we open the phones.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're offering the audience today is a complimentary portfolio review. And what we'll do in that complimentary portfolio review is we'll take a look at what kind of risks are inside your portfolio. Are there risks there that you didn't know existed? Do you have substantial bond risk in your portfolio because your bonds are too long-term? Maybe, maybe not. You want to know the answer. What kind of fees are you paying inside your portfolio that could be hidden in the background that you were never told about? Also, what kind of tax implications are inside your portfolio? Are you building a tax time bomb for your heirs that you didn't know existed? If you have questions, if you have concerns about the risk that you're taking or the fees you're paying, then give us a call at 833-652-7829. For the first 10 callers, we're offering a complimentary portfolio review. Even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. That'll take you to our website where you can click on the complimentary portfolio review. We'd be glad to give you a second opinion.
Stuart, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen, 833-652-7829. We know you have a lot of questions for Stuart, perhaps about how much risk you're currently taking. Perhaps you need to know the answer to that question. He's offering you the complimentary consultation to the first 10 callers today. 833-652-7829 is the number. We're going to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a very important topic, diversification. How do you know if you're properly diversified? Stay tuned. We'll find out momentarily from Stuart after this very short commercial break.
People are really concerned about outliving their money. Inflation, taxes, volatility in the markets, legacy. That's what people are really concerned about. Listen, I love what I do. When a client of mine can know with total confidence that they're going to be okay. At Asset Preservation, that's exactly what we do. Not only do we look at your investments, we look at your taxes and estate planning as well. We don't leave any stone unturned. That is what a real holistic shop does. Provide a very clear roadmap so that you know it's okay to enjoy retirement. Success is being able to sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what we provide at Asset Preservation is not only the market expertise by institutional money managers that are some of the biggest and best in the world, but we also provide complete advice. You need to make sure you have a plan. What you can expect from us is to let you know the truth about your portfolio.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stuart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Stuart, a great show we're having today, and I would love to talk to you a little bit in this segment about diversification, because so often you talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, I'm well diversified, but they're not always. And most importantly, what about the do-it-yourselfers? How well diversified are they?
Yeah, so what we see all the time is people that will have multiple positions. You know, I had a client about a year ago that came in. It was like 175 different individual funds that she had in her portfolio. And part of it she managed, part of it her advisor managed. And she said, look, I don't like having all my eggs in one basket. Well, when we performed the analysis, and it was like 270-page analysis, it was crazy. But what we saw in the portfolio review in this analysis was that, you know, half of her portfolio was overlapped, which means that, you know, if you have a S&P 500 fund and you have another blue chip growth fund, but they move 95% similarly, which means that if one goes up, this one's 95% likely to go up, or this one goes this way, this one's going to go that way. Well, if they do the same thing, guess what? They're the same fund. I don't care if they're called the same thing. All I care about is how they react to stimulus, to the market, right? And that's what we see oftentimes, and that's what we saw last year. You know, in 2022, we saw a lot of these poorly diversified portfolios that all did the same thing. And in a lot of people that didn't have a tactical approach really took it on the chin. So when we talk about diversification right now, we're talking about diversification of your investments to make sure that they do different things. Every single investment should have a specific role in your portfolio. It's not just about owning a bunch of stuff, right? The next thing when it comes to diversification is not just a diversification of investments, but a diversification of perspectives. What we mean by that is that, you know, think about this. If you were dealing with a financial advisor and he or she is sitting across the desk from you, like we're sitting here today, and they say, hey, I really like this growth fund and this fund here and this bond fund, and, you know, and this is the portfolio I'm suggesting for these reasons. And my question to you is this: what if they're wrong? You're going to bet your whole life savings on that one person being right? Well, to me, that's a tremendous risk, right? And so people put way too much faith in an individual advisor. And what we tell people is that the most dangerous advisor is the advisor that thinks he's smarter than he is or she is, right? And by that we mean that a lot of these people don't know how to get second opinions themselves. And at Asset Preservation, we have access to one of the largest money managers in the world. That's a tactical money manager with a strategic overlay. We have a money manager that spent 14 years at the biggest bond house in the world, or one of the top bond houses in the world, in Newport Beach, California. I'm not allowed to mention them by name, but David Young is one of our managers that I can name by name. He's a brilliant guy, absolutely just top of his game. We had another money manager that is a very, very tactical money manager that is an algorithm money manager, and they were brilliant for 4 or 5 years. And then last year they were terrible. They just absolutely pooped the bed. I mean, it was horrible, right?
Wow.
But here's the point, is that one of the best money managers on the planet, in my opinion, got it completely wrong last year, but the other two did what they were supposed to do. And that's the same thing with you. And I say that comfortably because no one's going to get it right all the time. They're going to mess it up. But just don't do it with your entire life savings.
Yeah.
Make sure that you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Sure.
And if you believe that you have all your eggs in one basket, or if your spouse is managing the portfolio themselves, my question to you is, what if they're wrong? You're going to bet everything, your whole life's work, on their perception of the market? Just remember, if you watch a conservative news channel, you see the world one way. If you watch a liberal one, you're on a completely different planet than this guy.
True.
Don't you think that affects money managers? They see the world differently. They interpret data differently. They see things completely separately. So if you have a concern about whether or not you have a diversification of perspectives, you need to get a second opinion and find out, how are these decisions being made inside your portfolio? So that's a diversification of perspectives.
Okay.
We also think it's important to have a diversification of strategies. Now, I touched on that a little bit, but we have, like I said, we have some managers that use an algorithm that, or one manager that uses an algorithm that is very tactical by nature. They look at all the data historically. They didn't do a great job last year because the data was different. We've never seen $7 trillion of injected capital into the economy. We never saw this pandemic. We've never seen that data before. But the big money manager, one of the largest in the world, they got it pretty right. They did better than they expected to do. Same thing with our strategic series as well. But you need to make sure that they all have different approaches. They see the world differently, that you create real diversification in your portfolio. Now, the last diversification I want to talk about is a diversification of tax classes.
Okay.
So you and I talk about tax all the time.
All the time.
Right. And the one thing you know is that I really like the idea of tax-free, tax efficiency. Right. There's a lot of, books out there that are talking about living a tax-free life, but you have to create the environment to make that happen. One of the ways you do that is by having access to tax-free money. Just remember, we don't believe taxes are going down in the future. We believe that, we are in one of the most efficient tax windows in history, and that taxes are going up from here. That may or may not be true, but all the data indicates that when the Trump tax cuts go away at the end of 2025, taxes are going up unless Congress acts. We don't believe they're going to act. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get that done. So you need to make sure you do have some Roth, some IRA, some non-qualified assets, some tax-free accounts. You need to make sure you have a bit of everything so that if you want to take a vacation, or if you want to, buy a car, that you don't have to just absolutely hammer the taxation on your retirement accounts and Social Security going into retirement. But you need options and you need a choice.
Stuart, we're going to be opening up the phone lines in just a moment because you have a very special message that you want to give to the viewers at home today. There's an offer involved.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're offering the audience today is that complimentary portfolio review, where we'll give you the truth about your portfolio. Are you concerned that you don't have proper diversification in your portfolio? Do you believe you're only getting a single perspective? Maybe it's time for you to get that second opinion. If you're going to, make a New Year's resolution to take charge of your finances, really take it seriously, then we're offering you, for the first 10 people, that complimentary portfolio review. But you have to take action. Give us a call at 833-652-7829. Even easier, click on that QR code. That'll take you to our website, apsitaxes.com. Click on complimentary portfolio review. We'd be glad to give you a second opinion. Absolutely complimentary.
Stuart, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the number to call is on your screen, 833-652-7829, or go ahead, grab your smartphone, click on the QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, I want to talk to Stuart about the difference between tax planning and tax preparation. Stay tuned.
Right now, the market is a big mess, and oftentimes people feel lost. So while most people are scared, you need to know that you're going to be okay. I'm sure you have a lot of concerns about whether your portfolio really fits you. And if you need help, all you have to do is give us a call. At Asset Preservation, what we offer is a complimentary portfolio review. We can provide that fresh set of eyes to give you that second opinion. You can't get a second opinion from the guy who gave you the first. You want to make sure you're dealing with a fiduciary. We'll give you that fiduciary perspective. If you have a relationship with a financial advisor that you don't entirely enjoy, I think that's a problem, because these relationships are not meant to be short term. They're meant to last a lifetime. You don't want to deal with people you don't like. If you have concerns about your portfolio, you need to give us a call.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Stuart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Stuart, I want to talk to you about something so important today, obviously, the difference between tax planning and tax preparation. There is a difference, and why is it important to know?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people really enjoy the relationships with the people that prepare their taxes, and I love that. I think chemistry really matters, and people will say, hey, no, I have a great tax guy. Well, look, at our firm, we're not trying to convince people to do their taxes, with us. I mean, it's not a profitable part of our business. We're not doing it, to make money preparing your taxes. The whole reason we have a tax preparation office is to be able to gather that information for our really most purposeful part, which is tax planning. Now, tax preparation is just preparing your taxes, making sure all your deductions are taken advantage of, that you get any sort of tax credits that you're entitled to, making sure that you're filed properly. Tax planning is planning for the future. And I'll tell you, I have to train and untrain and then retrain all of the CPAs and enrolled agents that prepare taxes at our firm, because historically, Cynthia, a lot of the way they've been trained to think about things is they want to be the hero right now, and they'll say, hey, if you put $6,000 into your IRA, you'll save, $1,500 right now. Doesn't that sound good? We can save you $1,500 in tax. But what they're doing oftentimes is creating the tax time bomb. They're worried about today, not worried about the future. And I think that that's a big issue, because it's not just about today, right? Tax preparation is something, that occurs between generally February and April 15th. And some people extend forever, right?
Absolutely.
but if you are doing tax planning during tax season, these are people that are working 10, 15, 17-hour days. They're zombies. They're, God bless them, they're working their tails off, but that's not when you should be getting tax advice. That's just to get your taxes filed. Tax planning should either happen before tax season begins or after tax season ends. Usually give them a month or two to catch up, because I guess, after April 15th, that's one of the biggest vacation days in Mexico and Hawaii, because all these accountants head off to take a vacation because they've been working forever, right? Tax planning is about really forward thinking, about using all the tools at your disposal to create the most efficient tax environment you can.
I have to ask you, Stuart, obviously, if taxes are so important, why aren't other advisors talking more about it?
Well, because taxes are a complete pain in the rear. I mean, I'm telling you, I have a love-hate relationship with taxes. For the first decade of my career, I feel like I was faking it. Like I didn't, by not talking about tax. Well, first of all, most advisors are prohibited from giving tax advice. It's the whole reason we hire CPAs and enrolled agents at our firm, to be able to give that tax advice, right? We want to be able to do it all in one. But number two, like I said, they do the least amount of work necessary to get paid. Once you start going down that rabbit hole of tax planning, now there's a whole different level of expectation. All my advisor friends around the country, they wonder, hey, why are you so busy in December? You should be shutting it down and enjoying the family and doing all this. Well, you know what? This is what I signed up for. Our tax planning, most of it's done in November and December. And look, we want to be able to look backwards on the year, because if you do tax planning in January, what if you get that bonus, or you have that liquidity event, or you have to exercise some stock options, or you get a raise, or other things can happen in your life to really mess up that plan. That's why we always want to do tax planning at the end of the year, or at the beginning of the year, or a combination of both. It's really, really important. And when you do that tax planning, once again, you want to do it with tax people that are on fresh eyes, that haven't worked 12-hour days for the last 2 months straight.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I know, so we only have a couple of minutes of the show left. Roth conversions, how do those help with tax time?
Yeah, so it's a kind of contrarian view where, we're telling people, hey, pay taxes now at this lowest tax environment in history, or pay them later when taxes are going up. And look, I had this client that came to see me. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. He moved up to Sedona and bought his dream house. But and the great thing is that he was referred to me by someone that had $100,000 with us, not a huge client, but we treated him well with dignity and respect. And she referred her older brother to us. And well, he was in the middle of selling a $7.5 million property in Washington State. And when he sold that, he wanted to do some financial planning. So he came in, we started talking about it. And we also found out he had like $3 million in IRAs. Well, now what we did is we looked at it. We said, hey, to make it short, we showed him a cash flow analysis for the next 20 years that basically said whether he converted it all to Roth in 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, the end result is the same, but it would save him a couple $1 million in taxes by getting it done. Well, when we told him to convert it, he went to a CPA. The CPA was like, yeah, these guys are idiots. Who's going to pay 33% tax to convert a Roth? What he didn't do is show him our cash flow work. We showed it to him, and these CPAs are so used to saving taxes now that they never thought through that, hey, he's going to end up saving millions of dollars over his lifetime by paying it now at this lower environment. So it lowered his tax bracket. We lowered him basically from a guaranteed 33 to 37% for the rest of his life. And now he's able to stay inside the 20% brackets, 22 to 24% bracket for the rest of his life very efficiently. But he had to make a plan. He took action, decided to have a plan, and now he lives an efficient life.
Well, Stuart, it all comes down to proper planning.
That's it.
To our viewers at home, if you're ready to get your plan for retirement, please call in today, 833-652-7829. We know you may have some questions about taxes. Stuart has the answers for you. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today on Asset Preservation Hour with Stuart Willis.